So this is my review of Just Breathe by Dan Brule, and I thought I would just start with the 3 breathing exercises that have resonated most with me. And the first really was probably that sort of 6 breaths a minute practice, which I do with one hand on my chest and the other on my belly, and just breathing fully and taking an inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, then exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale, and just continuing with that, and even just finding that it actually settles down even more as you settle into that practice. But I found that really helpful just for regulation. I was really interested to hear about the heart rate variability element, and also trying to introduce affirmations in doing that, which is helpful to solidify it as a practice, I think, somewhat, rather than just be in the counting. The second one's the Buteyko method, which in a similar way is I just do hands on chest and belly, and that's just breathing in and out through the nose, but quite shallow breaths, not over inhaling. And at the end of an exhalation, holding the breath out, and that's challenging for me. I found that even after 10 or 15 seconds of holding the breath out, I was needing to gulp or take a recovery breath, as they call it. And I'm okay with holding my breath after an inhalation. I surf and happy to do that with some hold unders and that kind of thing, but it really made me realise just the sort of fear of being without breath and not being able to take an inhalation on the end of the exhalation. So yes, interested to explore that a little bit more. And the third one is probably they call it the spiritual vacuum cleaner breath, but it's Tonglen in Buddhist practice, and that's just basically breathing in suffering into our heart and transforming it through the heart and its deeper intelligence into loving kindness and compassion, and ultimately caring for both our suffering, the suffering of different parts of ourselves, and friends, people we know, community, and the wider world. I mean, it can be a very powerful practice. And that's quite transformative to sit in that space, especially in sort of retreat settings, in my experience anyway. I was also really interested in reading about Stan Grof, some of which I've been exploring, and also Leonard Orr and the rebirthing piece. I'm really looking forward to exploring both of those much more, and part of me doing this work is to really help in some of that deep dive space. So super interested in that. And realizations or importance points. There were some big learnings for me about the importance of birth and the first breath. I feel like there's a bit of a template that got laid down, and I've had some sort of perinatal birth experiences where I know there's quite a bit of terror, and it's a bit tricky, but it's also quite transformative. Part way along the journey there. One of the challenges in the book for me was just how much there was, so many different practices, and some of it a little bit too much in that sort of intellectual and headspace, and turning it from being a cerebral thing into a lived, breathed, experiential practice. It was tricky to sort of wrap my head around, but it also just made me realise how much I tend to do that for myself, and actually can be a little bit too intellectual, and that there is much more in making it a lived practice. I also found that one of the things that was challenging was the warrior pieces about Navy SEALs and that kind of thing. Like, I understand that there's a use for it there, but I think I don't know, I hesitate with the words, but toxic masculinity type part of that I find quite challenging. I can see that actually that is highlighting in me a degree of discomfort around being around aggressive, overly macho guys. I think there's a much bigger masculinity waiting. One of the inspiring things is what I thought was just how much is possible through the breath, and particularly that it can effectively reach into core material and be such a profound piece in a healing journey. That we can heal birth trauma and deep archetypal patterns too, which I think is a wonderful opportunity, and that's been part of my exploration so far too. What patterns or opportunities has it highlighted for me, and how might those areas contribute to my overall growth? Well, I know I tend to underbreathe, and that fear of holding the breath out is part of it, and I know it matches at times what can be an undercommitment to life and myself, and a tendency to hide, if I'm completely honest. I know sometimes that there's just this massive amount of energy in my system, and it can end up being, at its worst, it gets funneled into rumination and that kind of thing, rather than expression. And the reverse possibility of growth and opportunity for, the reverse of that, potential for expansion, is certainly there. And I don't know, I'm reasonably comfortable at that, being with discomfort. Like, that's actually been quite a present piece in my life and journey so far. And the underlying realization that I might do the peace and awareness part quite well, but the alive action is, it comes and goes. I do have it, but it's a possibility, really. How could this book inform my practice as a breath worker? And what could I bring into sessions? Well, I was quite inspired, and again, just drawing on a bit of yoga background too, just how much possibility there is with the breath, just from regulation and awareness, all the way through to really sort of deep dive material, and that it can be used to support physical, emotional regulation and awareness. It can be quite a strong ally in personal development and performance, all the way through to the unconscious material. And I think that's a huge possibility. The book reaffirmed the fundamental idea that we know how to heal ourselves, and that the breath is a powerful tool to access what we need to feel and heal. And healing really fundamental patterns, old traumas, are all possibilities with the breath. One thing that I kind of came back to through it all is like reclaiming some aliveness that I had when I was much younger, and have certainly had at different times in my life, but might have lost a little bit of at times. And the biggest thing, it kind of closes the book with this, is the importance of love and unconditionality, non-reactivity, and the ground of being itself, as being the sort of fundamental bedrock and touchstones for it all. So yes, the challenge at the end I am part way through and will complete. But that's where I am, and hopefully that's a useful review.